Over the years, I've represented clients against APS. I've helped students in administrative proceedings in APS. And in my time doing that, I've noticed a common theme of overt or direct acts and instances of racism. And I planned on 2 minutes for the record, so I'll just say that there's a common response by this district or by the perpetrator of the racist act that they didn't know better or they didn't mean it like that. And why we're here today as the ACLU of New Mexico is to call on our public school system to know better and to institute measures so that students know better, so that teachers know better. And we sent a letter after consulting with tribal leaders, after consulting with concerned family members.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Yes,
Please
yes,
wrap it up.
yes,
Thanks.
Chair. And we sent a letter to the district today that outlines measures that we would request that the district take so that these issues of embarrassing issues on this district of racism don't continue to occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward.
Hello. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be up here, not because I want to. It's because I'm doing it because I'm a father. My daughter was the one that was called the Bloody Indian. That is out of line, in my opinion. And no one should be called that in a context of a public school system. To be called out, to disrespect my daughter in that form is uncalled for, and that is why I am here. I speak on my behalf of my family, and I also speak on the behalf of all Native people. Personally, I am Edward Johnson. I come from the Navajo Nation. I've been living here since the birth of my daughter, and she grew up here. She was born in this city, and to be disrespected in that format in this community is uncalled for.
Thank you, Edward. Demetrius?
So I'll introduce myself in the way I know how. Yate, Shay Demetrius Johnson, Dasha Jene, Tudachini Nishle, Ado Sidna Jini Bashashin, Sanjikan Asia Che, Ado Tudachini Edishanele, Torthana Den Nasha, Agot Ego de Nehesti Nishle. First of all, I want to say that this 1 minute, 2 minute time limit is it's kind of bullshit. We have to recognize that we are on Indigenous land, and for us to only have our voices confined to 1 minute and 2 minutes, it's not possible, especially for my little sister. So she's actually, I think, speaking after me. So I would actually appreciate if she gets more than 1 minute or 2 minutes to let her tell her whole story, and also let all the girls tell their own story in the minutes that in the time that they can. I'll stop speaking. I'll let the girls speak. I actually think Carly's after me, but after that, I would like to let the girls speak for as long as they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Demetrius. Hey, let me remind you, it really is only 1 minute, and the reason is because this is not a forum for us to be able to have a long discussion. This is a forum just to make a point, and then we will, in fact, take that into consideration. So I want to make sure it's just 1 minute, okay? And I know you have a lot more to say. I know that. But we have to allow that so that everybody has the same amount of time. Okay, 1 minute. Thank you. Go ahead, Carly. McKenzie? McKenzie, go ahead.
Thank you to all of you who spoke up. McKenzie Delaney Johnson Inisha, Tudachini Nishlan, Senajini Bashichin, Sanjikanada Shiche, Tudachini Shanela. Hello, I'm McKenzie Johnson, and I'm a junior at Cibola High School. I came here to inform you guys on the story of what happened to me and my fellow Indigenous classmate. On Halloween, while waiting outside class, I see a non-native just in a Pocahontas costume, and nothing was done about it. No announcement, no assembly, not even this incident wasn't even looked upon at our school, wasn't even acknowledged. But on Halloween, when we entered the class, it was dark and only a few candles on the desk and this big Promethean light. She told us to put our backpacks by the door, and we were really excited to see what she had planned for us for Halloween. She gave us no warning of what was going to happen. Miss Eastin explained her costume through her video of Marie Laveau. And what she was a voodoo witch from New Orleans. She read a poem after that and asked comprehension questions. And if you got it correct, you got marshmallows. If you got it incorrect, you were fed dog food. She called on 3 people. The first person, he didn't know. He was given dog food. Miss Eastin saying, "It's organic, you can eat it." He refused, obviously. And she went after him with a box cutter saying, "Are you sure you're not gonna eat it?" She went up to the second person. He only answered 2 of the questions. He was also given dog food and he refused. She went after the third. She said the 2 that the previous student said and was also given dog food and she refused. Miss Eastin said, "Do you like your braids?"
Can you wrap
Holding
it
up
up,
her
Mackenzie? I know
I'm
you've
still
got a long
talking.
story. I know you've got a long
Excuse you.
story, but we have 1 minute, guys.
"Do you like your braids?"
Everybody has to be fair
She
about it.
said, "I do." She looked at the class and said, "Do you think scissors would do the trick?" The class was so confused because we didn't know what was going to happen, but we put the pieces together because we're an AP class, obviously. First of all, we didn't expect this to happen, and she just cut her hair, and the sound of cutting hair was like the sound of celery when you break it off. After she cut her hair, she just sprinkled it on her desk. Keep in mind, this third student was the first time she was getting called out in class. She was embarrassed. She was planning to grow out her hair. As Indigenous people, we value our hair. She gave out a grammar worksheet, but keep in mind the class is dark, and so she called on people with their flashlights, giving them a spotlight. Some people ate the dog food and some people refused. Some people ate the marshmallows and some were given dum-dums. But when she called out on me, she asked, "Now what are you supposed to be? A bloody Indian?" I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, but the whole class was in awe. They're like, "What happened? What did she just say?" I was so furious. I was so mad. I was getting red. I was shaking.
Please
What she
wrap
said
it up.
after that
Please wrap it
was-
up, Mackenzie, please wrap it up, okay? I'm giving you a lot of extra time.
What
okay?
she said was that offensive? Hell yeah, that was. Of course it was offensive. Miss Eastin said, "Well, you are bloody, and you are a..." You know what she was gonna say. She didn't say it, but she moved on with the class, and the class was dismissed early. Following that, the days leading up till now, my friends and I, Kiana, and the third classmate, we've all been harassed by our peers and by our teachers. We shouldn't have to learn in this type of environment. I want you guys to change this. I want all of you guys to look at me and hear me say that Indigenous people are resilient. We are still here. You're on native land right now. I didn't expect my elementary and middle school friendships to be broken. I didn't expect to hear this type of thing from my teacher. I just came to school to learn. This is why I took my AP class, was to learn, to get into good colleges and get my scholarship so I can educate myself, and I can go back and help my people. My peers have said things to me saying it wasn't a big deal. You took it too far. It was only that much hair. Broken trust, friendships, more stress. I've been angry. And I'm especially angry at the people who don't acknowledge this, the people who don't acknowledge that my people are still here. Just look at the audience. Look at them.
Thank you, McKenzie. Can we, because we have other
I'm
speakers.
still talking.
We have other speakers that really need to want to say things too. They want to say things too. No, we can't, guys, we can't.
Do you guys
can't do
allow
that.
the teachers to treat us this way? I don't think so.
That's where we're starting. That's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to do, McKenzie, and that is the whole point.
I want the history classes changed. I want our people to be known. I want nobody to feel the way me and my classmates or any of my people feel. No one should go through this. Nobody.
I understand.
Despite what any race you are, especially if you're Indigenous, we get put to the bottom. Since Europeans got here, since people have colonized us, don't expect us to stay quiet. We all want our voices heard, and if our time limit exceeds that, then so be it. We're here to speak.
Thank you. Okay, let me talk again about
Welcome
this.
back to the Red Nation podcast. Jen Marley here.
1 minute,
We're joined by
then I'm
a
gonna
very
shut it
large
off at 30
and
minutes.
knowledgeable cast today to talk about a very important and ongoing thing. Today we are joined by McKenzie Johnson. Would you like to introduce yourself?
McKenzie Johnson initiate Twitter initially. So now Jenny Justine do educated. Hello everybody, my name is McKenzie. I'm a UNM student right now. But I'd like to pass it off to my brother, Demetrius Johnson.
Demetrius Johnson Twitter initially do sit na Jenny Justine. Sanja Canada Twitter additionally. Twithlana Dena Sha do Akut Ego the Nehesti initially. What's up, everyone? My name is Demetrius Johnson. I'm a member of the Red Nation. I'm also Mackenzie's older brother.
Let's pass it to Kaylee first.
Kaylee Bahe nishe. Tutsun initially. The Bethlehem Bashichin, Kintlachini Dashiche, Dot Lash Edashanala. I could ego etiquette initially. Big Bahodzana, Denasha, Do Eldorado Hodako Ostate, A Inishtat, Satsada Inishtat, Do APS Indian Education Student Representative initially. Hello everyone, my friends and relatives. My name is Kaylee Bahe. I am Big Water, born for the Black Sheep Clan, and I originally come from Arizona on the Navajo Nation. I'm currently attending Eldorado High School as a junior, and I'm also the student representative for Indian Education at APS.
Awesome, thank you. Well, Tamu, everybody, y'all know me, JT in the house. Let's get started. All right. So why this huge star-studded cast? Well, as you might remember, a couple years ago, McKenzie experienced a very horrific act of racist violence in her high school classroom at the hands of a teacher who was, we came to find out, known for being racist. And this came at a time when attention was being brought to cases like this nationally, all over the country. We saw in the headlines more and more acts or more documentation of racist violence by teachers upon students. And this came at a very tumultuous time, right? We're coming off the heels of 2020, Black Lives Matter movement. We're seeing Wasn't it before all
It was
that?
2017.
2017. Okay, so this was coming
Like
up
Standing
the hills
Rock.
of Standing Rock.
Yeah.
And also after Trayvon Martin was murdered, right? So there was also momentum going there. There was tensions were high nationally and locally. And so I think like through diving into this case and what happened, we're able to track not only that momentum there, but how it's continued and how we're still getting victories. And so just jumping into that, can you tell us a little bit about what happened and how this is ongoing now? Can you grab the mic and maybe just hold it about right here, McKenzie?
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, this happened on Halloween 2017, 2016. I was a junior in high school, and this is in an AP classroom. And so the whole school like dressed up, and the classroom at the time we had like a contest going on for like decorate the classroom. And so when we went there, we waited outside for a bit, and then we found out that the teacher was dressed up somehow, and she was like all in character, and she was like, oh yeah, like put on like a witchy voice, because we didn't know what her costume was yet. And so she's like, come in. And so we saw the door open and just kind of like smoke flooded out from the floors. So she got all decked out. We're like kind of excited, like, woo, like spooky. And so, yeah, we went in. The classroom was all dark. There's no lights. There's like a few candle lights on each desk. And let's see. Yeah, she told us to put our bags on the floor and we couldn't touch our devices. And so she's like, yeah, just put your phones up, put your bags away, and sit down. And she was kind of like assertive with this. So we're like, okay, yeah, she's getting real into character. So she explained her costume, which is a voodoo witch. Marie Laveau from, what's it called? American Horror Story. I mean, she was a real person, but yeah, based on that.
Wild to begin with.
I know. And so, yeah, that's where it was. And so we all sat down, this, that. She gave us like a papers to write down on. She asked us questions, and then she warned us at the back of the room. She just got some like new books and stuff, so like there's a box cutter there, and so she got the box cutter, and she's like, to those of you who answer right are gonna get marshmallows. To those of you who answer wrong, she already had a bag of dog food, but it looked like Cocoa Pebbles, and so we were just like, is this real? And she's like, yeah, like it's organic, got it from Whole Foods, it's that, I feed it to my dog. And we're like,
it's organic kibble.
Yeah. And so we're just like, you're lying. And so when the first person got it wrong, she told him to eat it. And when he didn't eat it, that's when she threatened them with a box cutter.
With a deadly weapon.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we were just kind of all like on edge because we didn't know like if it was still part of the act or whatever. And so we kind of just were apprehensive and scared in the class. And so then it went on, threatened a few more students, gave some marshmallows, I guess. And then she called on one student at the back of the class. She's another Native American student. And this is her first time getting called, and she wasn't dressed up or anything, but she had like 2 braids. And her hair was really thick too. So like, it's like probably all my hair just for one braid. Anyways, yeah, she got called on. She wouldn't answer. She said she didn't want to. And so she's like, oh, are you sure? Like, your hair looks lovely. And then so she like picked it up, like stroked it. And she's all like, don't touch me. And so then she's like, I don't think box cutters will do. So she goes to her desk, drops the box cutters, and gets like these pair of like metal shear looking scissors. And so she goes up to her. She's like, do you like your hair? And then she's like, yeah, she was just really timid, so you couldn't really hear what she was saying. And she just picked it up and started like cutting and cutting and cutting. Like I said, it was thick, and so it just sounded like celery, like you know how like the fibers and stuff. And it went on for like maybe like 3 seconds of just cutting. And like during those 3 seconds, the whole class was just stunned. Like, is this real? Like, did they plan this? What the heck is going on? And so we're just all like, I don't know, just gagged basically. And so, yeah, after that, the whole class just tensed up more. People were like, how come we don't have our phones out? Like, we could have recorded this. And then she dropped both of the stuff. She got a flashlight instead. She kept asking questions, like kind of like a like on the spot. Like she'd just flash it to
Like
you.
interrogation style.
Yeah, basically. And so she'd flash it on each student's face, like asking them questions like, what are you dressed up as? What are you? And then she'd guess sometimes. And so then she went to me and she's like, and who are you over there? Because I'm like, this is like a whole row. And I was sitting like towards like the door area. And so like someone had to move back for me to, yeah. And so, yeah, she asked what I was. And she's like, I was about to explain. She's like, what are you supposed to be? And I was about to talk. And then she cut me off and she said, a bloody Indian. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't say anything at the time. I was just like stunned. And so, yeah, she's like, well, you are bloody and you are. And she cut herself off. She was going to say like Indian or something savage, whatever. And so after that, she just stopped what she was doing. She turned the lights on and she just stopped herself. It's like, all right, this is done. Y'all can leave class early. And so what I witnessed during that time of the period of when she was cutting her hair off and like the flashlight was going around the class, I just saw the student in the back, like just sweeping up her hair and like holding back tears. And so for us in Navajo, like you're supposed to burn your hair whenever it gets cut, especially if it's like by somebody else who like basically violated you. And so she was just crying at that. And I just saw her like dart out of class. I think she was the first person out. She just threw her hair in the trash and then she just ran down the hallway. And then after that, all my classmates were asking me like, are you okay? This, that. And I'm like, where's so-and-so? Like, I want to go help her, but I already saw her go down the hallway. And so I was like, I hope she's going to the principal, or I don't know. I hope she doesn't stay silent about it. But, and so that's when people like bombarded me asking questions like, oh my God, that really happened. Like, are you okay? This, that, like that was fucked up, this, that. And so then like throughout the day at school, like I kept getting asked questions and like saying that, oh, did that really happen? Like, I don't like, tell us what happened or this, that. And I was just kind of like still stunned, like, I don't know. And so some people in the other class were like, oh yeah, that happened. Like, you can ask Kenzie about it. And so they're asking me. And then I got pulled out of class from my Native American club sponsor, Mr. Garcia at Cibola. And so he helped me out. And he was standing with that girl. And she was crying. And he's like holding her like on the shoulder, just like tapping her like that. And so they're like, so what happened in class? And she's like, so-and-so just came up to me and talked about it. And I said, oh, well, here's what happened. Like I was telling it like in great detail because I kind of held it in. So it's just like word vomit coming out. And so I started getting overwhelmed and like my voice started getting shaky. He's like, okay. She's like, you don't have to speak anymore. We're taking you down to the principal and you can talk about it to them. Miss Eastin might be there. And we're like, oh, I don't want to see her. And so I remember going down to the office. She tried like hugging me. Yeah. And being like, oh, like I didn't mean it, this, that. Like she was talking in her normal voice again. And I'm like, what the fuck? And what I found out later is that the principal actually approved her classroom and the dog food that was there. And so I thought that was wild. We found out later on with the case, but yeah, just throughout that day, I remember I just getting overwhelmed and people questioning my experience and also other people's stories saying, oh no, this happened. Oh no, this happened. But like we didn't have phones to record what actually happened or anything. And I just remember it so vividly because like I was in front, like looking at everything. I mean, I was actually there in the classroom too. So at the end of class, or I had an after school program and like sports and stuff. So I was running my laps and then I just like completely just crumbled and broke down. My coach asked what was wrong and he was Native. He was our running coach. And so I told him, I was like, this is what happened to me today. I want to get picked up, this, that. And like, that's the reason why like I fell down. Like, it's just getting all up, like it's building up now. And so he's like, okay, we'll call your parents. And then I get a call for my mom. And she's like, she was already there. And she's like, so tell me what happened in school today. I got a call from the principal. And usually I don't get in trouble like with like school and stuff. And so I just told her what happened. And she's like, oh my God. Like she started crying, hearing it. And she's just looking at me through the rearview mirror. And she's like, oh my God. She was like kind of driving fast back home. And so we're like, what do we need to do? Like this, that. So my parents started talking and then my brothers heard about it once they got home. And so that's when, from then on, that's when we got like the lawyers involved, the principal and everybody, like all the administrators. There's peers who talk badly about me, saying I only did it for attention, or that none of that actually happened. And then also, the teachers were talking crap, choosing sides, and the students were like, oh, like, good job, Kenzie, like, you made me lose an opportunity to do this, that with the teacher. And so, the blame was a lot on me and, like, friends. My social life just dwindled down. I was still active in everything, but I was taking a law class. And, like, I was also involved in a leadership program for Mr. Williamson's class here at CUC. And so that also brought in a lot more, like, community involvement, and so kind of distracted me from what was happening, not only at home, but also with, like, things at school. So, that was what this whole case is surrounding. So from then on until now, we've had about 2 hearings. And so what's coming up now and why this is important is because we're going into New Mexico Supreme Court to talk about it for another hearing that's going to be near Gathering of Nations. It's going to be on April 19th. So it's coming up quick. Or 29th, sorry, April 29th. But yeah.
Thank you for telling that story, retelling of that, McKenzie. I know you've had to say it over and over again throughout this whole process. I want to know what Dee has to say about that day and what happened.
Well, I think throughout this whole process, it was actually like during 2018, 2019, there was a school board hearing, and we advertised, Red Nation helped our family and advertised the heck out of that school board meeting. It was packed. There was people even waiting outside the lobby. And there was a lot of people that were pissed. And there was actually people that traveled from out of state, like a lot of Native people, a lot of Native families that came once they heard about this. And they offered, support for our family and said, like, this is like a Native issue. This is, again, just like attacks on our people since colonization, since the boarding school era. Like, this all relates, and it was just beautiful having other Native people come up and, show that support, even if they were so far away. But I think what was, I mean, for, us as Red Nation, us as like organizers, us that are like in the movement, we've already recognized, like, the going through like the process that the school has set up. I already knew it was going to be draining. It was going to be demeaning to my sister and her family, because they're going to ask her to like share these stories, and also they're going to set up multiple meetings. And that's exactly what happened. There was meetings set up citywide at, for each district to talk about like how they can actually, like, the Albuquerque Public Schools can like better support Native students, Native families, and even like the support from the Indian education director at that time, Daisy Thompson, was I don't know what you call, like, inconsequential. Like, it was not even there, which was surprising, but also not surprising if you know Daisy Thompson. But those meetings, which I think like lasted like 4 months or something, it was a long series of meetings.
So this happened during October. It went on until the end of the school year. Yeah,
maybe 2 months. They just had us write like sticky notes, and they just listened to our concerns. We put up like on a whiteboard, and then like nothing really ever became of those those concerns, those meetings. I think it was more so for just like the publicity and just to say that APS tried to do something, but didn't do anything. And, like, we did our due diligence. We went through the processes. We jumped through the hoops. to also say that we also did the same things too. But I think, my sister, pursuing this court case, ACLU reached out to us and we've been working with them. And I think this was like the correct path to choose, just because like there has to be some sort of accountability from Albuquerque Public Schools' part. And we knew it was going to take a long time. I mean, 2018 to now is like 6 years.
Yeah.
My sister already has like her associate. So it's just like, like this thing we knew it was going to be like a battle. It's going to be ongoing. But one of the things, I guess, like why it was good to go through these processes and talk about it is because of actually, Kaylee, like, you also being impacted it, you also like, hearing the stories, and now like you're a student, you're a high schooler in APS. I'd actually just like to hear, like, since that time to like now, like, have you noticed anything? Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better? Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you for the retelling of that story. I'd have to say that our experiences are really similar, actually, because at least with what happened with me, it was also an AP classroom. And I think so far, just there's not much change, honestly. Even with the advocating that I've done, and like, it was just surprising to learn, like when I first started getting into this, that this has happened frequently. And it's like, it's not the first time that a Native student has felt uncomfortable in a history classroom at APS. And it was just really like mind-boggling to know that like this happened to you in like the past recent years. And still, I don't see like a really big push toward making Indigenous students feel comfortable in AP classrooms and in history classrooms in general. But like, I think just really it depends on the students. It's really hard to like come to terms with, but I've like in my experience, I found that it's really the students that have to push for change, because even like with speaking to the superintendent, the principal, with history teachers, it's like you have to keep pushing on your own, and it's really frustrating. So I understand like how you feel drained by this. I really understand that.
Kaylee, can you talk a little bit more like about the work that you've been doing and how you are, someone who's like really continuing the efforts of people like McKenzie and people who've been fighting racism within APS?
Yeah. So I think I'll start with how this all began with like my petitioning in the past year. So it all began with my AP World History textbook. So throughout the semester, students were assigned work accompanying each chapter. However, as we progressed through like the colonial ages of North America, I started noticing a lot of inadequate representation and context of Native peoples in our history here. And so with that, it was like the work was assigned weekly. So I was like, oh man, this is fine. But then as soon as it started like piling on, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm getting really tired of this. And so from that, I had the opportunity to speak with a trusted history teacher at my school, as well as some friends of mine that were Native. And I sent like a really lengthy text about how I was just getting really tired of this. And from that, I received the opportunity to create a bill and petition for what was making me feel really tired. Since the senior class of my high school was going to go to the state capitol and propose their own bills. And so from that, I started doing a lot of research about recent occurrences of anti-Indianism within classrooms of APS. And I started looking into more resources like An Indigenous People's History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar, as well as Red Nation's book, From Boardtown Violence to Native Liberation. And I think that really empowered me to kind of take a push forward and letting non-Native students know, like, this is the realities of what's going on in the classroom from my perspective. and kind of opening students up to the idea that a lot of the resources that we're receiving in class are pretty outdated and misrepresent a lot of things about Native people's history within the United States, at least. And so, yeah, hold on, I'm trying to think. Right, and from there, I began to write my own petition within a matter of a week. That's when I met Demetrius too with Red Nation, and I got to, there's all these other events going on at the time, like Larry Casus commemoration, as well as, there's the book talk, and also the actual meeting with Red Cody. And that's where I got to kind of further my petition, like what I wanted my voice to stand for, and what's just currently going on in a matter like considering Indigenous leadership and everything. So with that, when I went to Santa Fe, I argued that, like, at least my experience as an APS student from 2020, I felt that the New Mexico curriculum failed to provide an accurate and unbiased stance on Indigenous history, specifically while using textbooks, state-issued textbooks, and how it creates an unsafe and neglectful environment for Indigenous students at APS. So that's like the main basis of how this whole thing started. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kaylee and McKenzie, for the work that you've been doing. I mean, it's a continuation of the work that Red Nation's been doing, and that was even going on before Red Nation came into existence. And these are important issues, especially in a place like New Mexico, which is, infamous for revisionist history. And I also want to say in 2017, that's also the year of the big Entrada protest, and one of our main demands was to install Native-centric curriculum in all K through 12 institutions and higher education institutions. And so the way I see it, y'all are like fulfilling that for sure, and not just in terms of curriculum or education, but in actual policy change as well, right? And I just want to commend you too for really leading this fight.
I would also like to bring up, during I think 3 years before my case happened, there was the Yazi Martinez case that was also filed. And I don't know if they won it then or if it was a little bit later. I forget the year, but so Yazi Martinez was in full throttle pushing that narrative for Native education, especially towards students who are not providing that, either from not much funding or not much advocacy around it, or any of that. So I'd also like to bring that up because I was also I feel like my case is supplementing that idea. And so, and also from the experience, even though that has been in place, we still don't see the changes, even though they said oh, we'll be at this point around 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And so it feels like it just keeps getting pushed back. And so my mom at the time, she was working with APS, and so she kind of had to bite her tongue a lot about my case and what was happening, or even just trying to talk about it or bring it up in spaces. And when she did, she kind of just was like, oh no, you're not supposed to talk about it here, or oh, you have a bias towards it. So she's like, well, I'm talking as a mother, I'm not talking about as a person working for APS. And so there was a lot of backlash on her end as well. And so it was just with my family alone, it just felt very isolating, but also you just had this overwhelming support from the Indigenous community. And so that was, I'm here now, I know the efforts you guys did, and at the school board meetings, just hearing a lot of stories just about how these teachers don't stop. It's I don't know how to say it. It's just sad.
Well, Yeah, can you tell us what happened to Miss Eastin after the incident?
Oh, yeah. So there was this one part. I heard it from my lawyers, and they said, well, I don't want to quote them directly because I don't know how that is. But yeah, they told me, they mentioned saying, like, oh, like she's still teaching in Colorado. And when that whole case was happening, during that time when she was kicked out of school, she was on paid leave. And so to me, I was like, why isn't she taking her teaching license away? How come they're not like remediating that? And it was because she was supported by a union. And that's the same union my mom was in. So it's just like,
And yet they're telling your mom that she had a bias.
yeah. So if you're
God.
if you're trying to protect teachers from students, like, I don't get why you're doing that. And also, why are you protecting someone who's racist and also assaulting kids in class?
Literally.
Like, that's not what teachers are supposed to do. So it's just so, I don't know.
Gosh. Yeah, I was one of the Red Nation members who went to the APS school board meeting that day that it had happened. And I remember there was supporters for Miss Eastin at the APS board meeting. So yeah, just really wild to know that these like acts of racism also gather a lot of support.
Yeah. Can you tell us, Justine, what that day was like? I wasn't able to be there, but it brought out everyone. I remember such a unification of like individuals and organizations on the ground, or I remember hearing about it, and it sounded like it was pretty powerful. So yeah, and you were there too, right, Dee?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you two want to recall that day.
Me personally, that was the year that I joined the Red Nation. And I was trying to think about all that happened that day, or what, I don't know. To be totally honest, my memory is so like fuzzy on what actually happened. But I just remembered like how rowdy it got.
Mhm.
Like people were pissed off. I was pissed off.
Mhm.
And like and I really, you know, when I say this is when I first joined the Red Nations, I also feel like I was maybe not so mature. So I just joined, and so like I was contributing to how rowdy it was, but in the time it was like a good time to be rowdy. So no regrets in that. But I remember what Dee said, how people were poured out into the hallway. I was in the hallway. I was inside at one point too, and I remember we're just chanting like, "What do we want? Justice. We want it now. What is sacred? Our hair." And I remember y'all's parents talking to us at the end of it all, and they were just so. I don't know how to like put words on how they were feeling. But if I could put one, maybe like just grateful for the amount of support that was there for y'all. And that's what I remember. And then I also remember when that person who supported Miss Eastin was talking, the entire room was just like groaning and just like, like they were just like not having it. If we don't have a better cover photo, or if we don't have a better picture for this episode, I want to use the one of of when that lady was talking, and y'all will see what that is. But if we don't have a better one,
Oh,
I love that picture. So the picture is like, it's from the POV of the person speaking. Like a reporter was like on stage with them, and so the shot is just of the audience's reactions, and everybody's faces are just like
pure disgust. They're just like just pure disgust.
Jeez, my memory's pretty crazy too. Like it's kind of fuzzy. I just know like it was actually this was all happening like also like right when I got back from Palestine. I think I just got back, and I was actually flying back in from Palestine, and I finally landed in New Jersey. But that's when I got news that one of our relatives, our older brother, passed away. And so then flying back into New Mexico and then handling like all our doings back home. And then the day of the funeral was the day of the school board meeting. So after we got done with the funeral back on the res, we drove all the way straight to the APS building.
Yeah, so we couldn't even change out of like our morning clothes or anything. Like what we put on that day is what, and like to the funeral is what we went to at the school board meeting. And so I remember that whole time just praying and like going over my notes over and over and over again, and like saying how I'm gonna speak. And then he was contacting y'all like, okay, like we're gonna be coming at this time. I hope y'all got the people ready, this, that. And so like I was just like, when I spoke at the school board meeting, finally, it just didn't feel like I was talking. Like I kind of just blacked out. And so when I felt like maybe like, you know, Indiana, like the creator was like talking for me or like protecting me at that time. So yeah, I remember too, like a lot of like when it started getting rowdy, like we had a timer for us for all the speakers that were going on. And so like we only had like maybe 3 minutes to speak. And so we also remediated that because just for our introduction alone, like with our clans or like honoring the land that we're on, that took like maybe a minute of our time. And so from then on, then we had only 2 minutes to speak. And so everybody just kind of donated their time to people who signed up to talk. And so they gave me the time to talk. And I was looking straight at the director, and like he didn't budge. Like he's just like you know, just waiting for me to get done. He kept saying like, oh, like you're over time. And I think a lot of points I was just like, oh, I'm still talking, or let me speak, or like I have time. And so it was just like, there's a lot of hostility in the room. And I just feel like having all of that just finally just shot out and projected towards them. And yeah, it just felt to me, the school board meetings leading up after that just felt like more like just a checkbox for them to say like, oh, we tried something. We did it.
Just going through the due process.
Yeah, the things, there's a few huge moments I remember. One was that part, and just like how the crowd was just so much in support of my sister, and just so disgusted with like the school board. The second part is actually, I just remember too, like these like elementary school kids, like they drew pictures, and they wrote little notes for my sister, like words of encouragement, and also just talking about like, you know, why cutting hair is bad. And then the other part is like my parents, my dad particularly. My dad's just like a nerdy Navajo quiet engineer, and
Not
so
even
like
quiet.
but like hearing him talk after, you know, when the school board left, and then like the whole crowd was still riled up outside, we gave my dad the microphone, and he gave this speech, and it was actually one of the moments I actually saw like my dad ever like in that light. And it was like a powerful and beautiful experience as like, you know, his oldest child. So I've never seen him like that.
I remember you saying exactly that day too. After you spoke, I remember feeling some kind of way after Mr. J had spoken.
I wish I could have seen that. Is it recorded?
Yeah, it was recorded. There was a
stream. Maybe on the Red Nation live stream on Facebook. But
oh yeah,
gosh, I would love to go find it. Let's go excavate that. Maybe we could throw it in here.
Yeah. Shout out to Naka. They're the ones who actually did those little medicine bundles and like things and everything. They gave me like homemade tea little things, and so. Yeah, just bring that up made me emotional. After I was done my junior year is when that whole thing happened. I got out of Cibola and moved on to Naka. And they just had this new high school building right next to CEC. And so I was there, and I guess some people knew me, like, because like it was a really small, like there's probably only, our graduating class was like only 30 people. But yeah, so once I moved there, they're just all like, some people knew me, some people didn't. And so once they finally knew, they're like, oh my God, like you're from this case, like we actually did research on you. I was like,
jeez. Yeah, and just a point of clarification for our listeners, NACA is the Native American Community Academy, and it was Albuquerque Public Schools who had done us dirty like that.
NACA is a charter school.
mm-hmm.
It's independent of APS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so after all of this, you went to NACA, and, you know, amazingly, you had done everything. Like, I don't even know. Like, very just, like, you have such a colorful resume and strong one, too, because, you know, going from your junior year into your first years of college. And I'll just go ahead and jump ahead, but that was actually something that the defense's lawyer used against her.
Mhm. Yeah. So what they did, they just kind of diminished my resilience. Like, it just felt like my accomplishments were getting punished because, like, once I graduated high school, I was valedictorian, and then once I graduated for my associate's degree with SIPI, Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute, which is a tribal college, that I had graduated with honors, and then going into here. And so they're like, okay, so it doesn't sound like you were depressed, or it doesn't sound like you went to these therapy sessions, or kind of just, you didn't sound like you suffered from it. It sounds like you only like went up from there. So how could you have like experienced all this trauma, emotional trauma? Like, it doesn't make sense to us. And I'm like, can I not be like, can I not move past that? Can I not be successful despite all of this? Like, it just felt like my accomplishments didn't mean anything except for something to be weaponized.
So disgusting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't even know, like, because, like, the opposite of that is, like, we need to see how badly your life went after this incident in order for it to be true.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, these sessions with my lawyers and like everything was always after my sports or my extracurriculars, or, you know, straight out after school. And so it was just, I was so exhausted. And then on top of that, the school board meetings, and then on top of that, I wasn't like honors and AP classes, so I had to stay on top of my stuff, and I didn't want to make it seem like, I don't know, a sob story from like my teachers to say like, oh, poor thing, like, it's okay for you to do this. Like, I just felt like a fire in me to like just keep going, to like prove them wrong. And to the fact that that part of me was just kind of just like, oh, well, now we can't defend that part of you. I mean, like, they can defend it, my lawyers can, obviously, but it's just they're snatching onto that idea, like, oh, like, you're not supposed to be like that. I'm like,
So disgusting. And then, oh, sorry, Jen, was it still on this point? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it's just like what we're always saying, that you know, natives only get sympathy when they're perfect victims and when they're displaying and showcasing their trauma. And that's the point of like all of these meetings that they had, was, you know, like Red Nation has encountered many, many times in many of our campaigns, specifically when it's addressing racist violence. They try to open up forums for us to divulge our trauma, because that's the only way in which we're worthy of sympathy. We're seeing this happen to Palestinians right now, right?
Mhm.
We're only worthy of sympathy when our trauma is highlighted and consumable. And so your failure to perform trauma for them and be that perfect victim is something they're literally using against you. The second we do resist, the second we are resilient, the second we're not dying and suffering in front of them, is the second all their sympathy goes out the window, because then they see us for the threat that we are to the status quo and to settler colonialism. And they show us where their sympathies lie.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just all that.
But I think it's kind of interesting, like, observing, like, since this happened and then to the moment we're at now. I just remember, like, you know, when my sister's going through this, and then there was this talk about the Martinez Yazzie case, and then meeting Kaylee and knowing about the work that she was doing, and also the work that Red Media and also Freedom to Read is doing. But it's all like during 2020 and like during like Trump's presidency, and even now, there's just like this whole thing on like banning books, trying to change like curriculum, trying to ban critical race theory, like all these things. Like
Trump just came out with his own Bible.
Yeah, just like
What?
all these things like happening about like changing narrative, or like trying to change history, or like even erase history. We thought those things happened like over 100 years ago, but they're still happening now. And to see, young Indigenous people like Kaylee and my sister, like actually still like holding that line for future generations. And to say like, no, like we actually need like our own curriculum. We actually need to tell the right history, even going into like the history of like banning the entrada, like, or like it's all coming together. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Kaylee, and for coming on and also holding that work. And that's also why I wanted you to be on the podcast also. But yeah, I think we can go into some calls to action. One of them, obviously, so April 28th, April 29th?
Yeah.
April 29th from at 10 a.m. at CNM, the main campus. There will be the first hearing, the first of probably many hearings with the Supreme Court regarding my sister's case against APS and Miss Eastin. So calling all community to come to that. Also just, support, grassroots organizations, support Freedom to Read, because they're also they're giving free books to Indigenous libraries, communities, centers, to our incarcerated relatives in prison. But these are like carefully curated and, books with like a purpose. They're beautiful books. So shout out to Freedom to Read. But I think that's all I got.
Yeah, just for any natives who are coming out to Albuquerque for Gathering of Nations or coming into town for Najoni Days, that happens right after that. This is all happening at the same time. So any natives out there, any natives in support who do not want racist teachers in the classroom, please come support us, talk about your experience, maybe when you're outside of the court or even just inside, just supporting. So we got the Smith Brasher Hall at CNM, and so we chose that place with the intention of having a lot of media and a lot of people occupying that space. So yeah, please come.
All right, you heard it, folks. What's it? Smith Brasher Hall? Smith Brasher Hall, Central New Mexico Community College, April 29th at 10 a.m., Albuquerque, New Mexico. Be there, be square.
Anything else?
Yeah, you have anything else, Kaylee?
Huh? Sorry.
We have any closing?
Yeah. Just support Native kids, please. Yeah, like I think so, because I feel like the fire, at least from what I've seen, is dying out a little bit. Like, because I go to monthly meetings for Indian education, and like it's appalling to hear what a lot of parents have to say, and I feel like, I don't know, like at least from the APS board, like they say, yeah, we're going to work on that, we'll collaborate with you, but it just, the way that it just keeps coming in and happening, it's like, I don't think you guys are like really getting the right sort of coverage to take care of these things, if that makes sense. So I think, I'd love to organize something, like, get a bigger voice. But hate colonialism, fight it, Native resilience lives, and we will make it.
And where can our listeners keep up with your work right now? How can they support your work? Or how can they find you?
I'm mainly working through my personal Instagram account, but I think I'd really appreciate like support with developing like a really strong argument like about Indigenous curriculum and APS, because I'm still in the process of working toward that, but it feels like I'm the only student who's like gathering all of the resources, because I'm taking these classes, of course, but I feel it's all piled on me a bit to get everything. So I'd appreciate support with that.
I do know that actually Dr. Danette Dell and like a whole cohort of like Indigenous scholars and I don't know, teachers, medicine people are actually developing a Navajo Nation textbook that's going to be distributed across like Navajo Nation schools. I wonder if that can also be adopted in APS. I mean, it'll be I don't think it'll include like Pueblo history or like history from like specifically New Mexico, but yeah, I think that would be definitely like a demand too that we could have.
Right, at least excerpts of it should be included in New Mexico history curriculum.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, everyone. Again, please come out to support McKenzie on this very important court date if you're in Albuquerque.
Especially if you're going to gatherings.
Yeah. Actually, and like, we'll talk about gatherings, but go to Nijoni days. Like, be so for real.
Thank you, listeners. Thank you, McKenzie. Thank you, Kaylee. Thanks, DJ.
My name is Demetrius. My little sister was the one that got called a bloody Indian. But I want to thank my Red Nation sisters. I want to thank all my sisters for really fucking throwing down. They're the ones that are leading these chants. But we hear the same rhetoric over and over again. What the board members have told us, oh, we don't have the power to do anything. Take it to this person, and they're going to tell us to take it to this next person, and we're never going to get the justice we need. So doing this right now is super important. I want to thank all of you for showing up. My sister and my family really appreciate it, and the families of these girls really appreciate it. One thing I did notice at this board meeting was that none of the administrators, none of the people that work in the Indian Ed department, none of these people that say that they're for our children were actually here speaking for our children. And so it was the community members, it was us, it was the students, it was all of Albuquerque that came together from all over Turtle Island that made this possible. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. My dad thanks you, my parents, my siblings, thank you. So thank you so much for showing up. We really do appreciate it and fucking throwing out these chants. I bet they're so fucking annoying.
Protect the sacred! Protect our children! Yes.
I think my dad.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who showed up, and I especially want to thank those that have said their piece and given voice to this what seems like now is a movement, and it should have been done a long time ago. Yeah. Personally, I mean, they didn't give me my due time in there, so you guys are probably still curious of how I feel or exactly how these events have transpired to this point. Personally, what I like to say is, initially I was hurt. You know, as a father, right? When you're not there for your kids, that's right. When they get hurt and you're not there to protect them, and you entrust people like your administrators and the promise that they make, they're lying right over there. To me now, I've read through that thing, I've gone through that process, and this is my last step. I've approached every administrator up and down in the time that it happened. I was surprised. We were initially notified with just one phone call, an isolated incident. We didn't know the sidebar of everything that was happening, just that our daughter was insulted by a teacher among her peers. First of all, I don't appreciate being called Indian. Bloody is a misnomer. Bloody Indian in the same context. I don't know how you want to put it. For us that have been affected, that have been discriminated against, we as Native people, we bear those scars. We don't wear it on our arms tattooed on our forehead that we've been discriminated against because it hits right here. I can't expose my heart to tell you how many times I've been discriminated against. They will never know. Only I know. I protected my kids, my daughter, my baby. I come to this environment, to this community, by work first, but I provided for my family so to be safe, to grow up, become knowledgeable, to become great people, to learn their ways, to excel in their ways. But to get back to this point, it's like hitting the reset button to first contact. I don't care what they say, that it just happened yesterday. To me, I always imagined the people that first invited them over when they came, maybe suffering, whatever ways they showed up in, came into our presence, and we extended gratitude and help. We nursed them to health, whatever it is they may call it. Thanksgiving, we just went through it. They celebrated us in the process. We didn't hear about it. My child attends Cibola High School this whole month. How many days now? 28, 27? 28. Not once. Not once. No banners across the school. Walk in there. Even on the day after this incident happened, I felt like I was welcome. I had to go seek out the principal. The principal didn't call me. It would be nice to have the principal approach me. Maybe even give me a hug and give me a sincere apology. With a plan. With a plan. We assaulted your child. She's in jail. She's taken care of. Your child's been discriminated against. We have counselors available for her. Matter of fact, they're en route. What a wonderful place that would be if you could just paint that picture, but it doesn't exist. I found that out. Where's the help for my child? The people I entrusted, they didn't come approach me. All this effort to this day is because I didn't stand for it. Unbeknownst to me, like I said, I got a singular phone call to say that my daughter was insulted. I wanted to go there. I wanted to see the teacher myself. Already gone. Maybe she was protected. My daughter still became more victimized in the process. Her heart was already broken, her spirit broken already. I can't imagine how it is for that other child that got her hair cut. I really feel for her too, because that's right. Though I may not have long hair, I know what it means. I know what it means to have hair. Right now, I'm still in mourning. First for my daughter. Now, I just made it back from Arizona to be here because I wanted to stand here to send a message from me. Unfortunately, I was cut short. The 1 minute time frame doesn't do nobody justice. To hear people talk like Minnie Mouse and sped up. If we had known that, I would have recorded my voice. Everything that I wanted to say would have extended more than a minute, maybe 10 times over. They can't accept that my 1 minute to speak to them would deserve anybody justice. Who does that?
That's disgraceful.
Right. But anyway, the story just exploded. I couldn't believe it when we finally got a chance to talk to our daughter after this incident happened. We thought, okay, somebody hurt my daughter. I'm going to go after this person, whoever this person is. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know another child got her hair cut. And unbeknownst to me, one of her other friends in another classroom, teachers, reading from booklets that demean us in a negative way. I can't believe that. Beyond that, one whole 24-hour period passed. In that time frame, like I said, my daughter was further victimized by the school system, by her own peers. I came home to talk to my daughter. She was quite upset. I had to coax her. I had to coax my own daughter to tell me what happened. Unbeknownst to me, already, she was getting negative feedback. She was born in the city. She was born in a hospital not too far from here. What an opportunity, the city, surrounded by petroglyphs of our ancestors. My brothers and sisters, the Pueblos that live here. We don't live too far away. We're Navajo, just over the hill. We have Tohejile. This whole community emulates Native Americanism. It emulates our people that were once here, way before us, proud. Probably all wearing their hairs long. Interfacing with one another, not insulting one another. Living in peace. And we get to come to this type of environment to have people demean us. Our visitors, the people we originally brought here and cared for, brought them to help, for them to celebrate Thanksgiving. What a flip-flop that is.
Well, they work for you. They work for us. They're not independent. It's for them. They are our employees. Absolutely.
Sorry. I don't know how many times I had to make this speech. First was a broken record. How do I make my point clear to someone staring back at me without any recognition that I recognize that my voice is heard? You can tell. Bring an individual to stand next to you, look him in the eye and talk and have a dialogue. When someone's sitting back behind a big old mahogany desk, nice leather seat, I'm sure, and for you to put it on the other side to present after you had finally cornered the principal to make some time so that you could get the point across that they hurt me. It hurt my daughter. Someone has to pay for this. She affected my daughter. Of course, I can't say I've never been discriminated. Luckily, it didn't happen for me until later on. I grew up in a nice environment. I got my education only on the reservation in the town that I was born in and that I graduated from. I went on to college. That was my first instance of moving off the reservation. And I ran into a university times the people, the amount of people, the expectations multiplied. I got discriminated in that environment. And that was just right outside the Navajo Reservation in Flagstaff, Arizona, attending Northern Arizona University. This, too, is an emulation of that town. It resides around the edges of our reservations. Mind you, these reservations, they were our own lands. We were happy to be back in our own land. Some of them are unfortunate. The whole East Coast, those poor brothers and sisters of ours, now they call Oklahoma their home. Same is true on both East and West coasts of this country. We've basically been extinct from those areas. We probably think that we don't exist, that we don't have a voice anymore. But this was not going to be unheard of in my case. Someone hurt me personally, even though I wasn't insulted, even though I didn't have my hair cut, even though I wasn't having forced to read negative derogatory events of what others thought of us. There's a lot to be learned. We are all smart people. We speak our own language, we practice our own culture, but yet we practice theirs too. We learn their language, we're educated in their ways. We accept it because that's what colonization does. We're forced into it. Cutting of the hair is just an emulation of what they've done with their system.
It's an outward
It is.
expression.
Anyone who's smart enough to take history is just a repetition of their methods. There's no end to it. Personally, I experienced it. I experienced it personally, but to experience it on my daughter's behalf, that's just, I have to put a stop to it. They have to hear. I'm sorry, I lost my time frame reference. My daughter. So I coaxed her out of it. She told me. She started telling me what had happened. At first, it was rage. What broke her heart the most, friends she had known and grown up with. people that we thought respected our ways just because we interacted. But the moment the coin dropped and it turned a color game, they left us. My daughter lost a lot of friends already. She's gotten backlash from her student peers. This is before I approached the principal. I thought the principal had it under control because she had given me a phone call. I thought my daughter was going to be expelled. I didn't know the whole details of it until I spoke to my daughter and she told me this horrific story. I couldn't stand for it. Personally, I took personal time off for our own well-being. We seek our spiritual healers. We ask for strength because our heart was broken. Our trust destroyed. The community we thought we were a part of, we felt isolated and castrated. Who does that? I imagine it to be the same thing that our ancestors experienced. And I carry that here. I've read about it. I've read it from their reference. They don't never hear it from our side. We'll get there. We'll educate them. They no longer can't be ignorant. Hair matters. Doesn't matter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon, and I'm the mother of McKenzie and the wife of Edward. I thank you all for being here tonight in support of the girls. We shouldn't be here tonight. They should be at home doing their homework. Isn't that what their expectations of career and college readiness is? This isn't it. It's altered their school experience. For so long, McKenzie did not experience anything like this until her junior year. My sons also went to school at Cibola High School. They've heard stories of these teachers that have disrespected our kids. Sadly, I'm here working for this system. So no, I am not going to let it slide. I am going to ask for your assistance in the coming months to bring attention to this. This is not the only night that we're going to gather here. There are other equity and engagement meetings. So spread the word for us because we are not on social media. We also are very private people, but yet we have been thrusted in the forefront. And maybe because we are equipped and young enough and proud of who we are. And we are not going to back down. So they just fucked with the wrong natives. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to be on Native American Calling at 11 a.m. this Friday. So tune in, spread the word, and also write letters of support. Today, the students of NACA gave their support to the girls by providing herbs that they've gathered themselves to relieve stress, to drink herbal teas, because they want to let them know that they are standing with them in solidarity as well. So I want all of you to know, let the Holy Ones look over us tonight, protect us and guide us, and let us persevere. Speak up. We have an aps.edu website. Go to the superintendent's webpage and start filtering in all your stories, concerns, comments, because she will get the message that we don't want Miss Eastin back for our students here at APS.
Very good.
She's done very much harm to them, and we don't want another student to be harmed by her. So thank you all. I know it's very late, and we don't want to take much more of your time. This morning, we came back from Ganado, Arizona, to bury a loved one. That should not have been cut short for us, but we also felt that we had to do this in order to get data points for our voices to be recorded in this meeting, because they say there is none. So let's continue. You guys are the ones, I'm putting responsibility on you to spread the word and to continue coming. I thank you, everyone, for being here, and good night.